Well, hello everyone. I am Billy Dees, and I'm coming at you today for Perfect Digital Media Productions. Some of you may be checking out the online video, and I feel bad for you because, quite frankly, well, I have a face for radio. Others may be listening to the podcast version, and that is fantastic. But in either case, let me tell you a little bit about the style of today's program. This is going to be a very raw presentation in terms of it's not going to be produced. It's not going to be edited. This isn't a situation where I'm trying to do a voiceover that's absolutely perfect. This is just me talking to you. And quite frankly, that is the same advice that I give to my clients who are doing similar things. You should speak to them as if they're sitting right across the desk from you. Now, in this whole process, you do run the risk of possibly misspeaking or having to go back over something, but that's part of the honesty of the process. And I do believe when these things are done more or less as if they were live, there is a certain vibrance that the communication has. The passion for what you do has a lot more room to come out as opposed to a heavily processed message, and we're not going to do that today. What we are going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about digital media, and some of you probably have a pretty good idea of what that is. And we're also going to talk about content marketing, and that one a little bit more tricky. You know, you hear a lot about content marketing, and I am not a content marketing guru by any stretch of the imagination. I know enough about it that, as I do with traditional advertising, that I know how the pieces go together. But there is a lot of odd impressions about what content marketing is out there. And I kind of believe that is because content marketing has become such a viable concept that it also has become an industry in and of and by itself. And anytime that happens, okay, anytime you have something that becomes an industry, so goes the hype, okay? You have professionals out there who are inbound marketing professionals, content marketing professionals. You have entire firms out there that do nothing but content marketing for you. And obviously with that comes the idea that they're going to sell you on it. So the industry right now is throwing a lot of terms out there, showing how sophisticated they are with things like SEO, which is search engine optimization, and CRM, which is customer relationship management. All of these things are very viable concepts, but they are hurled at the public, a public that by and large is just now getting familiar with the concept of online marketing to begin with. What you are doing is you're selling them on the idea of perfecting their pitch, and they're not even in the right ballpark yet. And a good example of this type of impression of this type of material would be a little story that I can relate to you. You know, one of the things that I miss about my old company, which was called Sound Perfection, some of you might remember it, back in 1986 or so, I started that company. And it was very rewarding to work with my clients and watch their businesses grow. And not necessarily for monetary reasons. Most people who own a small business, it's not about driving a fancy car. I mean, that's cool. But what it's really about is growing as an individual, providing for your family. And as time goes on, those aspects of that relationship grow in so many ways, and I miss that. So I've been trying to rekindle some of those personal relationships because a lot of my clients now doing so much online in the digital world, some of them I've never met. Matter of fact, most of them I've never met. So I do believe in establishing those personal relationships. So I'm getting back out there and going to a lot of these chamber type events, these business social gatherings. And in that process, I met this guy, and here's where my story comes in. Now, I'm going to forewarn you, I very seldom use profanity. Okay, I believe it's a bad thing to do professionally. But in this case, what I'm going to tell you is an exact quote, so it is accurate. And it also speaks to the impression and the feeling that people have about this, because that remark that he made tells you what the context of that conversation was, what the atmosphere was in that moment. I met this guy who was probably beyond retirement age, and I only point that out because age demographics and all of this is relevant, okay? But I was telling him about what I did, about the digital media and the content marketing and so forth, and he listened very politely, and then he said in a very blunt manner, "Well, Bill, it sounds to me like what you do is bullshit." You know, that's a pretty stark thing to say to somebody. And I was not offended. I didn't take it personally because you have to take into consideration the old school nature of this guy. First of all, he comes from a generation that communicated with each other much differently than people do today, especially in the business world. Okay. And he also comes from the school of you got to get out there and do business with a handshake. And I do believe in that. I mean, there is a lot to be said for the power of a firm handshake. But you have to meet those people to start with. You know, there's a lot of people out there that may want your goods and services or somebody like you, but how do they find you? You know, I wouldn't advise going door to door throughout your community and knocking on the door and introducing yourself. I mean, that would be futile. So there has to be a way to get yourself in a situation where you're going to meet people to start with, okay? And that's what content marketing is all about. Now, I'm not sure I have a textbook definition of what content marketing is, but simply put, content marketing is the process of creating very valuable content online that is going to garner an audience. And out of that audience, hopefully there's going to be a process by which you'll convert members of that audience into clients. Now, even that is kind of vague. So let me do a brief example of how that works. Let's say back in the day, you were planning on putting a deck on your house, okay? And you wondered, what kind of lumber should I use? So what did you do? You looked up the web page of the local lumber yard or what have you in your community. And there was some very basic information on that website. Their location, the hours, maybe some pictures of the storefront, and their phone number. So you called them and you asked them, what kind of lumber should I use? Now, in 2015, what happens? You're sitting around your house, you're talking to your significant other, and you say, gee, I wonder what kind of lumber we should use. I wonder if it should be treated in any special way. What happens? Well, you might go to a computer, but there's a good chance you're going to pull out your phone and you're going to go, gee, what kind of lumber should I use for an outdoor deck? Boom, send. Okay, search. And you research that information yourself. That is what content marketing is, because if you're that lumber yard, you want to be sure that the information they are going to find about the kind of wood is going to lead them to you. So that's where that plain and simple web page isn't good enough anymore. You need very good content on that web page. You need blogs talking about the different types of wood, the different types of construction, the different types of treatments of wood, and so on. You want videos on there. You want podcasts on there. A lot of things for people to click on. And that's what digital media does in relation to content marketing. I don't know exactly what the statistics are on this, but they pretty much all agree that if someone comes across some digital media, for example, if they come onto a video and they hit that video, let's say back to the lumber yard, there's a video on there about building a deck. Okay, there's a very good chance if that guy watches that video, he is going to take the next step and contact you or your salespeople or whatever and buy some wood for his deck, or maybe even contract you to build it. Okay, that's how that process works. Now, there's many types of digital media. We already talked about videos. Those are kind of self-explanatory. You know, another thing is video slideshows. Another thing would be, and this is new to me, and this is more from the virtual world, but I've had a lot of interest lately in book trailers, you know, like movie trailers for movies. People who are doing their books or what have you on Amazon, Kindle, etc., they want a book trailer to talk about what their book is all about, which is kind of cool. You know, that's kind of creative. Now, we do a lot of podcasts here. Podcasts are rising in popularity because they do not require your complete focus, your complete attention, as if you're reading something or even watching a video. You can listen to a podcast while you're on your treadmill, while you're working in your office. And in today's busy world, that's very important. And it still creates a personal connection with you and your audience. That process still works. There's a lot of ways that we can do a podcast. We can do a podcast where you're just speaking as I am to you now. Or we can do an interview style program where I'm interviewing you about your business and the industry and so on. Or we can do a group discussion with people in your office, people that work for you, people that work with you, and so on. Generally, what we do is I bring out a mobile system. I bring out obviously a computer, a digital recorder, a mixer, an interface, and an array of microphones. I'm a big believer, I don't know what it is, when you interview people, when you do those types of things in their own environment where they feel comfortable, there's a certain magic that happens. So that's what we like to do here with podcasts. And here again, this is all about creating good content that people will be interested in. Now, your social media factors into this very heavily as well. Content marketing isn't necessarily social media, obviously websites and so forth. But your social media now is very important. I don't know what the exact statistics are on this either, but when you do a search now, there's a good chance that the answers for whatever it is that you are searching for are going to show up in some sort of a social media platform, okay? Your social media needs to be carefully managed. Now, this is going to be sacrilege. Myself personally, I haven't caught fire with Facebook. I don't know why. I do have a Facebook page for our company, which is Perfect Digital Media Productions on Facebook. Haven't caught fire with it. Now, I can tell you here locally, getting back to what I'm trying to do with getting active in the Akron, Canton, Cleveland area, LinkedIn, magnificent. I've gotten great results using LinkedIn for that purpose. And of course, LinkedIn, you have a smaller community of people, but they're all business people. They're all doing the same thing that you are trying to do. So LinkedIn worked very well for me, and I'm Billy Dees on LinkedIn. Now, another part of what I do, which isn't related to this, is I am an editorial writer. I write for any number of things. And I'm being vague about this because I don't want to confuse what I do for myself with what I want to do for you, okay? But I can tell you in that world, for my editorial website, and I do commentaries and so forth as well, in that world, Twitter has done wonders for me. Twitter has worked magnificently for me. But there is a ton of social media out there. I mean, there's Pinterest, StumbleUpon, Snapchat. I could go on. And I don't believe that you can do all of them, or it becomes, your social media management becomes a full-time job. And here again, it depends on your company. Big companies can afford to have whole departments dedicated to it, okay? But I don't believe you can do all of them, but by the same token, I don't believe you can ignore any of them, okay? The cool little thing today is tomorrow's way of doing business. So you got to keep on top. You can't ignore any of it. Now, with your social media, with your content marketing, I personally believe it is very important to decide what your business soul is going to be. Okay, what I mean by that is when people make a connection with you in any way, what is it about you and your business and your service that is going to jump out at them? You have to decide what your business personality is going to be. What is your business essence? And if I were to ask you, what is your business soul? And if you can't answer that in a few sentences, then that's a problem. Because there's a good chance that any advertising that you are doing, any content marketing that you are doing, when people run across you, they can't identify you either. So you really have to decide who you are, who is going to be, who as in the business entity, the feeling that you are going to get when people run across your information. That is very important. That identity has to be something that is very charismatic, okay? And in doing this, here's another part of my business philosophy. I believe, and I always have, in giving people objective information when they ask me about any aspect of the industry. And the rub on total honesty has always been traditionally, well, you know what, if you give them too much information is not a good thing because it could send them somewhere else. And that does happen. But for me, in the real world and in the world of virtual content marketing, that's okay. Because I'll tell you why. Let's say you lose 20% of people when you give them too much information. They go somewhere else. 80% of the time, people are going to connect with you because they trust you. They want a business relationship with you. Okay? And the other 20% of the time, the 20% that you lost, they are going to respect you because you were honest with them. And when the day comes that they need something else, they're going to remember that. And when they are talking to their business associates, they're going to say, you know what? Let me tell you about this guy over here. Didn't work out for me, wasn't what I wanted, but they were honest with me. Why don't you go talk to them? Okay? This is a classic case where honesty is not only the ethical thing to do, but it is, from a marketing standpoint, a great marketing strategy. Awesome. And this fits into my other perception of how businesses run. And what I mean by that is, I believe, in my opinion, in my world, and with my experience, that there's basically two types of businesses in terms of how they do business. Let's say over here you have a price-driven company. That company should be running, trying to turn over product, hitting price points. That's what it's doing, okay? What I do is I provide personalized custom services. The product is essentially me, okay? That is what that company is doing. I don't believe you can do both well. Okay, I know there's a attitude out there, you can't turn anything away. No, I don't believe that. If you're over here and you're providing custom specialized services, okay, and they start hitting you on price, those people are going to do nothing but water down your profits, okay? And by the same token, if you're over here and you're doing price-driven stuff, people that are always asking for little extra services, need extra help with things, they're going to do nothing but slow that process down, okay? I don't believe that you can do both well. That is my own opinion. And this is where personal relationships and content marketing fit together so well for me, because content marketing is all about trust. It's all about building a good relationship with people, and that is my style of doing business. I want to have custom services available for my clients. I want to have a relationship with my clients because, by and large, those customers, those clients do not go away. The guy who's shopping price, if you can't hit the mark for him tomorrow, the customer you had today is gone. It's that simple. And that's not the way I want to run my business. Now, that's not to say that if you are in the volume business, that's a bad thing, but that's how you have to present yourself. That is how you have to present your business essence, okay, your business soul. Now, traditional advertising, I'm going to talk about that because that's another thing that content marketing has done, is it has created an impression that traditional advertising is dead. Radio is dead, television is dead, print is dead, and so on. I'm not there yet. I do believe that traditional advertising can still work. However, getting back to what I said earlier, it all has to tie in to what you're doing online. That identity has to be consistent. You know, here again, back in the day, and I was a part of that industry in the late 1980s, early 1990s, when talk radio was deregulated and any number of other things happened with the radio industry. Talk radio, information, opinion, all that type of thing on radio just exploded. And you had people like Rush Limbaugh and Howard Stern and all those types of individuals, that ilk of people just explode. And the young Republicans, boy, I'll tell you what, they really liked Rush Limbaugh, okay? And I'm not getting political here at all. I'm just pointing out that this was a group of people that was reached by the hand of radio. Okay, now in 2015, this may be a bit of an overstatement, but I guarantee you, if you talk to millennials, I'm telling you what, as a general rule, you're going to have a hard time finding a lot of them who have listened to talk radio a day in their life. Okay, and that's just the truth. So what does this mean? Well, one of my favorite little sayings is, it always isn't about survival of the fittest. Sometimes the species that has the greatest chance of survival is the one that can adapt to change. And if you look at what is happening with radio now, Howard Stern diversified. Glenn Beck certainly diversified. His digital media is, awesome. And even the radio industry itself, when you go to their website, they have repeats of their programs. There's podcasts on there. That is all becoming part of the process now. And listenership in radio isn't what it once was, but it still is there, especially for morning drive. People tune in to hear the DJ's banter. They tune in to hear the traffic reports, the weather, so on. And throughout the day, you still have people listening to radio in their cars and so forth. So it still is alive, but it's not what it used to be. Same with TV. There's still broadcast TV. There's still your local station, but that is being undercut now by DVRs where people speed past the program. It is being undercut now by streaming services like Netflix, just like what happened with music radio. Back in the day, when I first started, when there was a new song out before it hit the record store, the only place you could hear it was the radio. So you had your radio on to hear your favorite song. You don't need to do that anymore. Your favorite song is instantly available. So the traditional advertising industry has to grow just like the rest of us. And I believe that if you're going to do traditional marketing, you have to tie it in with your social media. You have to tie it in with your overall content marketing strategy. That identity needs to be there. It has to all work together as a team, as an overall process, as an overall strategy. So, with all of this being said, where do we go from here? Well, first of all, if you are interested, if I have raised your curiosity at all, I would certainly like it if you would contact me. And anymore, it seems like email is the way to first break the ice for most people. So let me tell you what my email address is. It is perfectmediaprods, just like it sounds, PRODS, perfectmediaprods@gmail.com. If you would like to check me out more, I would direct you to my Twitter account. Now, for those of you who may not know, and there are people who are still getting acquainted with this, you don't necessarily have to have a Twitter account to check out a Twitter page. okay, you do to interact with that person. But to just check out a Twitter page, you can do that. My Twitter account is at Perfect Media Pro, just like it sounds, at Perfect Media Pro. I have links in my bio to my company blog, and I also have a link in there to my SoundCloud account, which has any number of voiceover demos on there. A lot of my commercials that I made for the radio are on there. You can check all of that out. Now, if you're really from the old school and you would like to call our office, our telephone number is 330-495-5198. That's once again 330-495-5198. Well, I certainly want to thank you for hanging out with me. I know it was a bit of a long commentary, but I'm very glad that you hung in there with me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am Billy Dees for Perfect Digital Media Productions. Have a wonderful day.